Welcome back, South Philly Sauce and Audacy Original, brought to you by 94 WIP and Jack Daniels. Ashlyn, Sullivan, Al Morganti here with you. Al just said it's the Christmas edition, even though we don't have any Christmas gear on this Monday. But that's okay. We still have a lot to discuss. Last time we were with you, it was a rather negative episode. The Flyers were on a 3-game losing streak. They had lost one on the road, one at home to the LA Kings. We're in the game, blew the third period. But now we have a big win to talk about to start this new week, a win over the Blue Jackets, Columbus, over the weekend. Come from behind, overtime win. Such a perfect game of what I think this season is for the Flyers, which is the comeback kids. Now you have a big one against the Penguins on Monday night before the holiday break, but it just goes to show one win can fix a lot of things.
Well, it can certainly send you into the holiday spirit, the holiday season a little bit happier. That you got to win before, it'd be doubly important to double up against Pittsburgh. But I just looked at the downside of it, Ashlyn. If they hadn't won, we come into this week, it's Christmas week. The league's off for 3 days. If you ever went in with a 5-game skid, it would have been just horrible to come into this thing. No matter how you think you can forget about it with kids and presents and all that, you're still like, oh my God, what did we do to our season just before the holidays? So it was critical to me to come back against Columbus in a wild game. It was a wild weekend in Philly with that. The Eagles game was bonkers. It was just everything was bonkers this weekend. It was just crazy. And it was the bottom line is you can see the difference when a crazy game happens and you win, and nobody really gets hurt, and a crazy game happens in another sport and you lose. It's like, oh, horrible. It's it just shows you how much the bottom line really matters. It really mattered to the Flyers to come back in that game. It was in the building, you could sense it's like you can sense everything at a home game, obviously, that like what it's going to be like when they leave the arena. It's like, is this going to be like, oh God, what a season, it's headed for disaster, or oh, that was great, and come back and win the game. And that'll be in the locker room too. And you heard it from the coach and everybody. It was a mess of a game. It was a technical disaster in a lot of areas. Just if you were watching in terms of how the game should be played or whatever. Both sides made awful mistakes, goaltender giveaways, just it was nuts. But they won. And that was the bottom line on it.
It is true. I had some friends that went to that game. That one friend hadn't been to a Flyers hockey game in 3 years. And they were going to leave at the start of the third period because at that point the Flyers were so out of it. And I went to go sit with them, and I actually watched part of the third period from the stands, and I got to see the 2 goals that forced overtime, and they stayed till the end, and they're like, win. They already bought a couple more Flyers tickets. Like it just one win can hook people. And it was just such an exciting third period. And it was woeful at times, a lot of mistakes, but it just goes to show you really did feel out of it. And I mean, we were talking about our post-game show, what it was going to look like if the Flyers had lost that game. We'd be talking about the power play, which we're going to talk about still in this episode. We'd be talking about Jamie Drysdale making a crucial, really bad mistake. And then truthfully, we're thinking, what else are we going to talk about with this team? And it goes to show one win, you're right back in it feeling good about yourself.
Yep. And there were, there was a lot to go over. I mentioned on our post game, Tortorella's news conference after the game was just
excellent. One of his best all year, I thought.
It's like the beginning of the season discussion on the team, on things where we had to go, what we have to do better. It was really, it was an amazing news conference. I thought, why is he going to all these different places? Like, I'm trying to think of myself back in the day. If I was a reporter, I'm like, well, I have 9 story ideas now on where we're going right now. And it's like, this is a great. It's not like they're kind of in the middle of the league, which is kind of that mushy middle, as they say. But I can't imagine many places with more storylines on where they're going and what the future is going to look like. And also, I'm really kind of mystified. I don't know whether to be impressed or what with the fans' patience on this, on what's gone on, because they were so close to a playoff spot. And you would think that, I thought the whole story this year would be to try to hold the reins in on the fans on what they expect after last year. And it's been completely the opposite. It's like, yeah, I like what they're doing. And I'm thinking, boy, I thought they'd be champing at the bit for get a playoff spot. You have to, otherwise it's a disaster. But they seem to be buying into this and really enjoying as much as you can kind of the whole putting together of a team that's should be pretty good in a year or two.
Yeah, absolutely. And that leads to us, the stars of last week, and definitely the stars of that win over Columbus, which is Owen Tippett. And he can drive you nuts because when he plays like the way we saw him play last week, all you can think about is, oh my gosh, if we saw that every night, what could this team be? And Tippett is definitely streaky, but the best thing about Tippett is when he hits, man, it's impressive.
Yeah, it is. And the most impressive part about his game was the fact that usually when you think of Tippett, when he gets hot, it's obviously goal scoring. I mean, step one for Tippett was hit the net. It's as basic as it sounds. He took a lot of shots that went wide, high, whatever, but he's more accurate with that shot now. I think it was down to like 3% early. It's more where it should be, in line of where it should be now. But it wasn't even we think of him with the great goals that he scores, tilt-a-whirl goals, whatever you want to call them, just all over the place. But this was passes, setting up plays, hitting people, smart plays, drawing players to him and opening up another player. All of that he used with his boots instead of just roaring down. I think Jim Jackson always says, roaring down or whatever, turbo, whatever he says there, coming into the ice. And that's what you usually see. And usually the payoff is a shot that hopefully goes in. Hopefully it's a goalie saves it. If it doesn't go in, doesn't go wide. But this was a case of storming into the zone and opening ice for other people. That would be the next step in the game, which actually would lead to more goals, as people have to cover other areas. So that's what I was impressed with Tippett. As much as other games, he scored prettier goals and highlight reel things. But these were things that when you start adding in these little things, it's going to make that goal scoring even more impressive.
Yeah, he had a really impressive week, some highlight plays, but overall just making a bigger impact in the offensive zone. And same with Morgan Frost. I mean, not to the extent of Tippett, I think the ceiling, but the consistency issue is definitely there with Morgan Frost. And we've seen it, last week, a big storyline was Cam York benched against the LA Kings, comes back. How many times has Frost been a healthy scratch? And we see a great response like we're seeing, but I don't think we've seen the length of response now from Morgan Frost since he's been with the Flyers.
Yeah, it's every time we think it's okay, he's reached kind of a next level. It's like, can he do it for 2 games? Can he do it for 3 games?
Counting the games.
Well, I think when you look back at that Columbus game, no small factor to me that Couturier couldn't play in the game. So everybody kind of moves up a spot or whatever, and you get more ice time. And Frost with Tippett. Frost now being counted on a little bit more. It's like, okay, it's 1, 2, 3 games now. And he's play away from the pucks a little bit better. He's a little stronger on the wall to play that kind of game. So, I mean, how many times have we been fooled to say, like, is this finally it? Do we have a new level? I think when you really want to break down the Flyers this year, you want to look at players that have improved. Obviously, you bring kids up, whatever, but you want to be able to players that had improved, and it's not the ceiling, it's the floor. Do we know that they're not going to fall through that floor again? And that's where I think we're with Frost. Everybody knows what could be the top, even if it's not every night. There's a ceiling. Yeah. But you want to know that he's not going to fall through the floor, and he's fallen through that floor more than once.
Course, yes.
So I mean, that's what I think you're looking for, and we're seeing a little bit more in terms of, you're going to have bad games. Even the best players have a stinker every now and again, but not a week of it. And with this team, it seems to be when one guy goes through the floor, the whole floor collapses. So this is what you've seen with Frost now. So that's why I'm a little more optimistic in what I've seen. I still, there's still issues with, defensive zone coverages, especially after face-offs where they all sort of, it's kind of a mess right now, but he's certainly playing a lot better overall on a level. And I think his line mates have figured out how to use some chemistry with him. When Tippett goes through and then somebody's open, where you should be in case a play develops from behind the net or whatever. I think Frost is I guess I use the term finally again. I've done it before, kind of where he should be now.
Yeah, finally see it. Finally is a great word for it, but you say it so lightly because give it a week and you don't know where he's going to be. That's Morgan Frost as a player. But the past couple of weeks have been really impressive how consistent he's been able to play. And something to that line is Cam York. And I think Flyers fans are a little bit confused about Cam York and the expectations that the Flyers have for him. I thought, speaking of Torts' honesty, I thought he was fantastic coming off the game that Cam York was a healthy scratch against the LA Kings of what he wanted to see from Cam York. And it's almost like Cam York has played himself into a pretty tricky position here because he had such a great year last season that now the expectations from the Flyers are, you're too important of a player to be able to go backwards. And we have seen Cam York the past couple of weeks definitely go backwards. And the Flyers have just been honest. He's that important to the franchise that they need him to play like he played last season all the time. Cam York definitely not 100% with his injury out, which I think is key to mention, but he's had to pass up the rough couple of weeks for sure.
Yeah, he played better. I do think, though, you cover the game long enough now that when a player or even a coach even mentions an injury, it's not small.
No.
So for York, for both he and actually the coach even, I think Tortorella actually said shoulder. Somebody said shoulder.
Said
whatever.
shoulder.
Yeah. And if you hear that should be underlined and highlighted, that you're coming back from something like that. Because you know what it's like with these guys.
Don't ever say anything. So if you say something, his shoulder's falling off.
Yeah, you see a player go on, it doesn't look right. And you find out, he can't feel his arm. I mean, I think when I heard the openness about it, I was a little less concerned about York's overall play in the past couple of weeks, because we had mentioned it before. It's like, what happened? Losing guys in coverage. Because if it's an upper body, it's one, but if it's a shoulder, you really can't even angle without worrying about things. And I think that's what made me think maybe it was more coming back from an injury like that. Because it's not like they hadn't been mistakes like Drysdale made just horrendous mistakes in coverage and where you should be or whatever. York's were like, why isn't he playing physically? Why isn't he pushing people to the outside and then coming back the other way? Why is that missing from his game? And I think when I heard both the coach and even when a player even mentions how tough it was coming back, I'm like, all right, that explains a lot of this to me. Because this is the classic case of when we go watch practice, we say, well, it looks fine. Well, if everybody in the locker room knows that this guy's got a bad wing or a bad shoulder or whatever, they're not going to go hard against him because they know what he's dealing with. And so us just watching, not knowing the extent of it, it's like, man, look, it looks fine to me. Well, he looks fine till the other team doesn't care about your shoulder and you come in and you play a certain way. So I felt a little better about that. And he, and his offense was there too. He came real close to having a goal and an assist. So it was really, really, important for him to have that sort of a game. And he's a hard guy to read.
He is hard to read.
He doesn't.
Everything's fine. No big deal.
Yeah, everything's fine. No worries. I'm having a good day. Okay, but it's you can tell on the ice because he's a really competitive guy without outwardly showing it. Tippett's kind of the same way. I have no idea how they seem to get a lot of players like this. With York, you kind of all the players who I wonder about can they play under Torts really effectively? He's the one I wonder about the most, because I don't know that he needs a lot of that extra stuff that Torts delivers sometimes, but he comes back from it fine. I think he'll be okay because he can shrug. I guess the term would be he can shrug things off. He'd be a terrific New Englander. Nothing would bother him.
Flip you off. We'll go about your day.
Yeah, okay.
I did speak volumes to me because Cam York is never one to complain or make an excuse. He's so matter of fact. I know I have to play better. I'm a pro. I'm a man. He talked about that, how they had a conversation, him and Torts, just two men talking. But he did admit, which spoke volumes to me when we talked to him at morning skate on last Thursday, that it was harder than he thought to come back from injury, that it exceeded his expectations, the difficulty of coming back from the surgery he had, from the injury he had, and how the easy plays he used to make are no longer easy. That's concerning. There's no other way to put it.
Oh, yeah, it's concerning, but he should get better. It's physically repair. That's why I'm not that's why I kind of, don't ever feel good about an injury, but I felt better that it was the injury rather than your mental ability to bear down in a game. It's a long season, but we're only halfway through. And that's why the games before Christmas are really important, because there is a tendency to just jump ahead a little bit. Get 3 days off, this, that, the other thing. Don't forget they're young guys, a lot of them with young kids home. It's a strange time before.
Going on. Yeah.
A lot. Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, you got like 3 days to shop or whatever. I've gone through generations of players to see, the one group that's worried about what to get their girlfriend and try to avoid the ring this year, to the next group that's got the new family, to the next group that's got the kids that are all home crawling around, to the next group that has to get home to the family. It's a strange time, to a coaching staff that's going through the same stuff on what's gone on. So that's why you can't let those points beforehand just escape.
Right. And now to the biggest issue of all, the powerless play. We're back. We're back to what we talked about all last season on this podcast, where we have to talk about it every single episode. We had nothing left to say because it was so bad. We thought it'd be better. It was better for a couple of months, but now it's back to being bad again, and there's nothing left to say. It's
back to being just awful. I mean, to be honest, it's back to being a positive for the other side.
Yeah,
I did watch. I think it was Saturday or Sunday night. I think Sunday. Tampa had a power play and gave up 2 shorthanded goals. That's Tampa to Florida. And so, I mean, it can happen, but it can't happen the way this has happened, long stretches. Because at the beginning of the season, we had Michkov. We thought, okay, we've got the skilled player now. Konechny's obviously a skilled player. You should be able to develop something. And, we heard in the offseason, we added some people that are helping the coaching. It doesn't look like that's had much of an effect right now. You're beginning to wonder if it's just like, I know it's counterintuitive now with the way that power plays are set up from the top or whatever. But I'm at the point, I'm like, just give it to Michkov and let him try to run things from down under the goal line, even just down low. Everybody seems to be married to a system where it's run from a diamond up. When the PK against them is a diamond, nothing can get through from up top. I'm wondering, you've got a very special talent here. Why not something dramatically different? I don't even know how. It's to a point I don't even know how to approach this anymore, because they've gone through so many different combinations to try to get this thing going. You can't have the big clapper from the point anymore. It doesn't work. It looked for a while like Zamula would be able to walk the line and come across and open up lanes. He actually did it for a little bit. That Zamula looks lost to me. And that's another whole discussion with Andre down and Zamula up. And Zamula just looks slow. But that may be just because I'm looking at it in comparison to what Andre did. But that on a power play doesn't look like he sets it up quick enough, even though he can see a lane. Drysdale should be. This is what's frustrating. You add Drysdale, who can go across a line. You add Michkov. Now you've got you've also added an immediate chemistry, supposedly, with Konechny and Michkov, and Drysdale, who should be able to move things around, and it's still not working. Honestly, when I watch them on the bench before power play and the whiteboards out, I'm like, just throw away the whiteboard. Just do something different. It's not just 1 week or one season here now. This is bled in from season to season to season. And I'm not usually much to think about, getting into your feelings or whatever, your head, but it seems to feed off itself that the power play is bad. I got to think that, when we feel it, oh, the power play, oh my God, and the crowd's like, oh no, not another power play. I got to think on the bench there's a little of, oh God, what are we going to do? That they just need somebody to just break through and do this. And I think it's a little. Coaches hate to hear it. I think there's a little freelance stuff into this right now, and I would look to Hitchcock to be the guy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, anything.
They tried it all. Maybe for Christmas, pre-Christmas, they get the package of 2 toques and a power play goal coming your way from Santa Claus.
I hope so. Just let it rip. Anything's better than what's been going on. So take the whiteboards off the bench and let's just see what happens. Try it for a week. I mean, what are you going to lose at this point?
Yeah, really, just go. Just
go.
Just pick on the bench who's going out like the meeny, miny.
Rock, paper, scissors. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Anything. Just do something. And that's the state of the Flyers power play right there, just about. But the Flyers coming off a big win. They got a huge game against the Penguins on Monday night. We hope everyone has a fabulous Christmas vacation. We'll be back on Friday to talk about this Monday night game. Hope everyone has a great vacation, and we'll see you soon.